Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, Oregon. I am Gloria Holland, filling in for Reverend Rick Davis this morning. He is out, but he will be back next week. Well, 2020. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? It just seems like it's been one thing after another. So I feel so very fortunate that we are able to meet this way each week. Wherever you are this morning, you are welcome into community as we gather in faith, in hope, and in love. You are welcome here. I just want to let you know that I miss you. You. I miss being greeted each Sunday by our host team who always welcomes us with smiles and hugs. I miss sitting in the sanctuary and spending a good part of the service looking up and studying our beautiful window. I miss listening to the uplifting message coming from the pulpit. I miss looking around to find you sitting right over there, and I give you a little wave and a nod. I miss grabbing a cup of coffee in the fellowship hall after the service and sitting down with you for a short chat. But under the circumstances, I feel really fortunate that we have technology. Through Zoom and telephones, we have stayed connected. We have meetings and book groups and friend gatherings, and we have an amazing crew, and they work pretty darn hard to bring you a Sunday service each week. I'm joined today by our celebrant, Brenna Norville, and we're going to talk today a little bit about hope. You are welcome here, if not in person, then certainly in spirit.
Our opening hymn today is O Star of Truth. It's number 293 in the Gray Hymnal.
Star of truth down shining through clouds of doubt and fear, I ask beneath thy guidance my pathway may appear. However long the journey, however hard it be, though I be lone and weary, lead on, I follow thee. I know thy blessed radiance can never lead astray, though ancient creed and custom may point another way, or through the untrod desert, or over trackless sea, though I be lone and weary, lead on, I follow thee.
Good morning. Here in this place of hope, may we find peace. Here in this place of connection, may we find life-giving community. Here in this place of rest, let the unrest of our hearts turn us toward justice. Here in this space made sacred by memories of connection, let us each feel ourselves part of the new that grows from the old in the spiraling unity of years. Let us join in connection and say our affirmation now. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for our partner church in Szymanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And we light our third chalice for our children and youth in lifespan religious education and in our world at large. Let us sing the flame to life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Lily Walker, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at the church. And today the theme of our service is about hope. But it's about more than that. It's about how hope is not just a feeling or wish that something good will happen and that the things will turn out the way we want them to. There's something more to hope. Hope is a wish for happiness that we hold on to, even when the gale force winds and storms come and try to take it away from us. In this way, hope is an action word. Today I'm going to tell you a story about the Buddha, although in this story he wasn't called the Buddha yet. His name was Siddhartha. In this story, Siddhartha holds on to his hope, even as Mara threatens to take it away from him. This story comes from Prince Siddhartha, The Story of the Buddha, by Jonathan Lando and Janet Brooke. The Great Battle. The moment that the world had been waiting for was now at hand. Siddhartha, who had given up a kingdom in search of truth, was approaching the tree. On his way, he passed a man carrying freshly cut grass and asked him for a small bundle. This he would use as his seat. As he drew closer, the air became very still. It was as if the whole world were holding its breath, anxiously awaiting what would happen next. The branches of the tree bent down as if welcoming him to come and sit down under its shade. Siddhartha carefully arranged the grass into a small cushion and sat down, facing the east. He crossed his legs in a firm meditation posture and rested his hands in his lap. And then he made a bold and determined vow. I shall not arise from this position until I have reached my goal, even if I die sitting here. And all of the spirits of the air, looking on, rejoiced, hearing Siddhartha's great pledge. It was the full moon day of the 4th month, and the sun was about to set. But the ancient stories tell us that not everyone rejoiced at this moment. There was one force called Mara, who was terrified and angry. For Mara is the name the Indian people gave to the evil forces that disturb our minds. Mara is greed, hatred, ignorance, jealousy, doubt, and all of the other poisons bringing people unhappiness and grief. Thus, when Mara saw Siddhartha seated under the tree of enlightenment, he was enraged. Calling his sons and daughters all around him, he shouted, "Look, all of you, Prince Siddhartha is seated in meditation. If he is successful and discovers the way to end all suffering, what will happen to us? Don't you understand that we shall lose all of our power? We cannot harm people if he teaches them the truth. We must disturb his meditation, or else we are doomed." So Mara and his evil forces tried everything to disturb Siddhartha. They produced a fearful storm and hurled lightning bolts down around him. They churned up a great wind until everything around seemed ready to crash down. But beneath the branches of the tree, everything remained calm, protected by the force of Siddhartha's meditation. Mara saw that the storm had no effect, and so he turned his troops and shouted, "Attack!" And the whole horde of evil spirits, demons, and nightmare shapes turned against Siddhartha. They ran towards him wildly, yelling blood-curdling screams. They shot poisoned arrows of hate at him. But as these arrows flew towards the prince, they turned into lotus petals and fell harmlessly at his feet. Nothing could disturb the peace of his meditation. If these weapons and fearful shapes do not distract him, Mara thought, perhaps the vision of beauty will disturb his mind. And all at once the frightful demons turned into the most beautiful and alluring women. These bewitching creatures danced in front of the meditator, but even they could not affect him. Memories of the pleasure palaces, visions of his wife and son, heavenly music, delicious food, nothing could break through the calm determination of this seeker of truth. Mara felt defeated, but he had one last plan. Dismissing his attendants, he appeared alone in front of the prince. Addressing him in a mocking voice, he said, "Ha, so you are the great Prince Siddhartha. You think you're such a great meditator. So many holy people have failed to find the truth, but you think you will succeed? How foolish you are. Don't you know that it takes a great deal of preparation to find the truth you're looking for? What have you ever done to be worthy of success? First, you wasted 29 years pampering yourself, and then you wasted 6 more years starving yourself. Now you sit here thinking that wisdom will just come to you? How foolish. Quit this meditation, or at least show me one witness who will swear that you are worthy of succeeding where all others have failed." These scornful words failed to bother Siddhartha. Silently, he lifted his right hand from his lap and reached in front of him and reached down and touched the earth. Yes, the earth itself was Siddhartha's witness. For countless lifetimes he had appeared on this earth in various forms. He had practiced generosity and patience, and he had acted lovingly and avoided harming others, and he had meditated on the truth. He had done all of these things, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a woman, sometimes rich and sometimes poor. Over and over again, he had done all of this just for the sake of discovering the end to all suffering. And the earth was his witness. Mara realized now that he was truly defeated, and he faded away like a bad dream. Siddhartha was left completely alone. The storm clouds parted, and the moon shone brightly in the sky, and the air smelled sweet, and light dew glistened on the tips of the grass. Everything was ready. May all beings benefit. Please do consider joining us next week for Children's Religious Education on October 25th at 9:45 a.m. via Zoom.
This year, 2020, has presented us with challenges we could not have foreseen even a year ago. A global pandemic, economic upheaval, social injustice, and political unrest, and torturous wildfires. And of course, now we are confirming a new Supreme Court justice. So many people have experienced untold pain and sorrow, and many people have had to reach down deep to find strength they did not know they possessed. As we go through this next week, keep in mind those you know who need your compassion and maybe even your help. And while this year has been pretty awful for many, there is still much to be grateful for. I know that I've had a few dark moments in the past months and weeks, and I'm so grateful for those around me, my family and my good friends who have taken the time to lift me up. My husband planted a really nice garden this year, and I'm very grateful for the buckets of tomato soup that we have in our freezer. I'm ever so grateful that our schools have been able to transform themselves in order to continue offering educational opportunities to our children and youth. Look around you. What things, even small things, might you be grateful for? And keep in mind that every sign of gratitude is a sign of hope.
Our pastoral hymn today is Step by Step, the Longest March. It's number 157 in the Gray Hymnal.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
The Idea of Democracy by Abraham Lincoln. As labor is the common burden of our race, so the effort of some to shift their share of the burden onto the shoulders of others is a great, durable curse of the race. As I would be a slave, so I would not be a master. This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy. Our reliance is in our love for liberty. Our defense is in the spirit which prizes liberty as the heritage of all people in all lands, everywhere. Destroy this spirit, and we have planted the seeds of despotism at our own doors. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves and cannot long to retain it. Why should there not be a patient confidence in the ultimate justice of the people? Is there any better or equal hope in the world? Let us have faith that right makes might. And in that faith, let us, to the end, dare to do our duty as we understand it.
Some of you may remember hearing the story I'm about to share, but I love it, and I think it's worth repeating. Just about 100 years ago now, my grandparents, Clinton and Lizzie Steele, were preparing for an extremely important day in their lives. Now, Clinton was the first rural postmaster in Battleground, Washington. And Grandma Lizzie, who had borne 12 children, could be described in modern-day terms as a stay-at-home mom. Aside from her usual motherly duties, she was known to farm the land, raise the chickens and cows, chop the wood, and cook and knit and sew and quilt for the family. Now, Lizzie Steele was not politically active as far as I can tell, but she could read, and she was well informed of the political issues of the day. She and Clinton and many friends and relatives often gathered around their kitchen table to discuss the current issues. Washington State had granted women's suffrage in 1910, but in 1920, one of the most important issues, by Lizzie's way of thinking, was the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which had granted women across America the right to vote in a national election. So on election day, Clinton and Lizzie made their way to town. Upon their return home, my great-uncle, Levi, stopped by. "So," Levi said, "have you voted yet?" "Sure did," replied Grandpa Clinton. "We voted for James M. Cox. Isn't that right, Lizzie?" Well, Grandma Lizzie looked up from her knitting and quietly yet firmly replied, "Speak for yourself, Clinton." My mother often told me that story, so I grew up with the notion that I must exercise my right to vote. Much later in life, I learned about the suffragists. I learned that in 1848, a small group of women, five women, met at a home in Seneca Falls, New York, where they decided to take on one of the most significant civil rights issues in our nation's history. They drew up a document which came to be known as the Declaration of Sentiments, which clearly explained why women should be able to vote. Women of the day had few rights to property, to earn wages, to keep their own children in the case of death or divorce, death of a spouse or divorce. And they were not able to even speak in public to a mixed group of women and men. Many occupations were closed to women, and women had no voice or representation in the very government that made the laws affecting them. Elizabeth Cady Stanton delivered this Declaration of Sentiments at the Seneca Falls Convention, and this platform became the foundation of the suffrage movement. In time, we would hear names like Susan B. Anthony, Carrie Chapman Catt, Lucy Burns, Alice Paul, and our very own Oregonian and Unitarian Abigail Scott Duniway. In 1919, tens of thousands of women from across the United States marched in Washington, D.C., demanding suffrage. Many were arrested, imprisoned, beaten, and force-fed. But they did not give up. Finally, on August 18, 1920, after a very contentious political battle, Tennessee the 36th state to do so, ratified the 19th Amendment by one vote. And on August 26, 1920, the amendment became law. Now, it must be said that many people, especially people of color, have been denied the right to vote by states, imposing poll taxes and literacy tests and shifting polling places. Many people of color were required to pay back debts before they were allowed into the voting booth. While the Voting Rights Act of 1965 outlawed these practices, many people throughout our country, as we well know just watching the news, are still struggling to carry out their voting rights. The driving force behind the suffrage movement and so many other progressive movements throughout history is hope. In 2017, when 470,000 women marched in Washington and an estimated 5 million women marched worldwide demanding equality, they led that charge with hope. The labor movements, the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests, and the Me Too movements were all carried by everyday people with hope on the soles of their shoes. I keep on my kitchen windowsill a framed copy of our closing words. And while I don't typically send up requests to a higher power, I do almost daily recite these words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. That phrase, hope for the community of earth, strikes me as especially essential today. I struggle, as I'm sure many of you do, with our current political situation. I struggle to remain optimistic about what the future holds for my children and my beautiful grandchildren. I struggle to accept the folly that I have watched unfold during the past 4 years in our nation's capital. But what exactly is this hope we call upon at the end of every service? What would science have to say about such a concept? Well, it turns out that science actually has a great deal to say. In the year 2000, after much research, psychologist C.R. Snyder published The Handbook of Hope, in which he presents what is now known as Snyder's Hope Theory. There are now over 2,000 studies related to hope. Now, I don't want to turn this into a college course on scientific research, so allow me to put into my own words what I have learned. Hope, apparently, can be defined, learned, and measured. We are able to very consciously create a positive mindset and grant ourselves permission to use that mindset to set goals that affect our well-being. We can set goals that affect our well-being. That is hope. And with that hope, we become optimistic, resilient, and strong. When hope becomes part of our very being in life, we are better able to handle stress, disappointment, trauma, and even disaster. According to Chan Hellman and Casey Gwynn of the Alliance for Hope International, and I quote, "Hope is the single best predictor of well-being." As the 4th of July approached a few months ago, Sherry Ulmer, my friend in person and on Facebook, asked the question, if you plan to celebrate America's Independence Day this July 4th, what specifically are you celebrating? UU member Jean Logan replied, I celebrate my still evident hope that we will follow our principles. Fellow UU Christy Olson started out by saying that she was disheartened, but she went on to say, it has been hard to feel good about celebrating somehow, so when we do, my focus has been hope for the future and hope for change. And from educator and Facebook friend Jen Myers, this day, July 4th, is not about one man in government, one viewpoint, one point set in time. This country was founded by a group of people saying they wanted something better. They left their homes and everything they knew for a better life. They risked it all. Tons of mistakes were made, yes, and we have a long way to go. But we have come so far. I celebrate the courage it took for them to take that first step. We can't stop now. We can create change, right wrongs. I have to have faith and hope. The best is yet to come. Thank you, Jen Myers. So, as in July, when we celebrated our nation's independence, now we have the opportunity to celebrate our nation's freedom through election. But hope, as a noun, is not going to be enough to see us through our challenges. Hope is defined as a desire for a certain thing to happen. Our challenge is to turn hope as a desire into an active verb. From January 10th to June 4th, January to June 1919, suffragist Alice Paul gathered an army of women who stood in silent, peaceful protest in front of the White House in order to draw attention to the desire of women across America to win their rightful place at the polls. These silent sentinels endured freezing cold, pouring rain, public taunting, arrest, and starvation. But they would not give up hope. These silent sentinels turned hope into an active verb. And now in 2020, we're again being taunted with misinformation about voting in America. We're told that people are trying to vote who shouldn't. We hear that vote by mail leads to fraud. We're even told that our vote won't count. But these allegations are largely and undeniably untrue. And I know that when I sit at my kitchen table and fill out my ballot, I am voting for hope. I am putting my hopes for my community of Earth into action. Back in August, while sitting on the back deck my back deck on a glorious Oregon summer day, I decided to make a list. What really is my hope for the community of Earth? Well, some of the things on my list turned out to be fairly genetic and others fairly personal. I hope for justice and equality and peace. I hope our country maintains its democratic principles and constitutional structure. I hope everyone in America gets good health care and affordable housing, and our children get a quality education. I hope for a clean planet. I hope everyone gets enough to eat. I have 6 school-age grandchildren, and I hope they have the opportunity to marry whomever they want. work in a career that fills their souls, travel to foreign lands, and live in a world where they will be able to maintain hope for their children's futures. But all my hopes are simply wishes and dreams unless I take the necessary action to turn these hopes into the active verb. My grandma Lizzie would be really proud to know that I have voted in every election that's come my way since I was 21 years old. And that's a lot of elections. And we must remember that in this election, we're not voting just for a president and vice president, but also for state and national legislators, or a secretary of state, for county commissioners, and for a number of ballot measures that will affect us all. Fellow Unitarian Charles Dickens, yes, that Charles Dickens, has said, "It's always something to know you've done the most you could, but don't leave off hoping, or it's of no use doing anything. Hope, hope to the last." As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant to affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Right now, our society at large is facing tremendous challenges on every level. But denying ourselves this one fundamental right out of fear or because we feel we won't really be heard presents a threat to our basic democratic process. Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "Nobody will ever deprive the American people the right to vote except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting." So, my friends and my fellow UUs, what's on the soles of your shoes? I have hope on mine. And I will once again carry that hope with me as I exercise my hard-fought right to cast my ballot. Blessed be. I invite you now to take a few quiet moments to reflect on your own hopes for our community, our country, and our world.
We support UUCS through our pledges, our time, and connections with one another. We support the Salem community through donations to the Marion Polk Food Share, and for the month of October, the microfinance team. The UUCS microfinance team makes small loans to people living on the edge, so that they can increase their earning power, escape poverty, and make a better and sustainable living for their families. Often, poor people are not able to borrow money to buy small equipment, items, or materials necessary for their businesses. Banks are few in rural areas. The UUCS Microfinance Project is helping people that banks cannot or will not provide capital. Current projects are in Nicaragua, Peru, and India. Our donations create permanent revolving loan funds that remain in the community to provide financing now and in the future. Please consider making a separate one-time donation this month with microfinance on the membership line or as a Share the Plate donation. We take the light from our chalice, lighting the social justice lantern as a symbolic reminder of the light and justice that we carry out into the world. As we extinguish the chalices, let us hear these words by Duke T. Gray. The blessing of truth be upon us. The power of love direct us and sustain us. And may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again.
After this service, there will be a Zoom fellowship gathering at 12 p.m., and that's just following the Sunday service. You are able to register for this Zoom fellowship hour at uusalem.org, and we hope that you'll be able to join us. We still have free copies of Irshad Manji's book, Don't Label Me, An Incredible Conversation for Divided Times, for members to read in preparation for our service next Sunday, our first ever joint service with another congregation, the UU Church of Spokane. You can pick up books on Tuesday from 9 a.m. till 1, or Wednesdays in the evening from 4 p.m. until 7. During our service, Irshad will answer our questions about the ideas presented in her book. So come, get a copy, read, and see what questions you have. This is an exciting opportunity to join in a rich conversation with a remarkable person. During the month of October, the UUCS Microfinance Committee is excited to auction exquisite hand-woven silk scarves made by Lao weavers, who benefit from microloans provided by UUCS, pardon me, and our partner organizations in Laos. These scarves are very similar to the very popular silk scarves that were sold about 10 years ago. Proceeds from the sale of the scarves will directly benefit next year's microfinance projects and continue our work to enable poor families. You can see the scarves and learn more about the auction on the UUCS website. Bids should be emailed to George Struble at gstruble@willamette.edu. And bidding closes October 31st at 5 p.m. I want to remind you of the World Religions RE class, the last Tuesday of each month, and it is headed by Reverend Rick and Don Wolf, and I'm sure if you go to the UUCS website, you will be able to find more information and register for that.
During the past week, we learned of one more bequest made before this campaign. We now know of such end-of-life commitments from 8 families with a total of $775,000. We also received word of one new commitment. UUCS is listed as a contingent beneficiary on a member's IRA. This brings the total of legacy commitments in this campaign from 10 families to $165,000. I encourage you to consider naming UUCS as a contingent beneficiary on some asset of yours, like a retirement account or brokerage account. Yes, your primary beneficiary is a family member, but if you should outlive that family member, maybe that asset could be directed to UUCS. So that's 18 families that I know of who have made legacy commitments. Many more of you should join that list. You will be in good company. Thank you.
Our closing hymn today is Just as Long as I Have Breath. It's number 6 in the gray hymnal.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Let us imagine joining hands with our community members, family, guests, and friends, saying these words together. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. Blessed be.